in honor of teamtrees.com. Welcome to r/Treelaw, a subset, or r/Legaladvice, where editors show why you should never mess with another man's trees. Don't forget to check out teamtrees.com and help the internet plant 20 million trees by 2020. Hi, a friend told me to check this sub out for legal advice. I'm not sure whether this is worth getting a lawyer over, but I'm pretty ticked. So I moved into my current house about 2 years ago. It's a beautiful 3-acre property, mostly flat except for about a dozen large trees bordering part of a road that runs alongside my property. I'm not sure what type they are, but they are pretty big. I think they are oaks. I love them. They provide some great shade in the summer during part of the day and are just pretty. My neighbor doesn't like them. He's not really my neighbor, since his house is quite a bit down the road, but he's the closest one to me. When I first moved in, he came over and introduced himself and asked if I planned to do anything about the trees. I was confused and told him no. He told me a little bit before I moved in. One of the trees had a branch break off and fall into the road, causing an obstruction that lasted a whole day according to him. He said the previous owner didn't care and didn't cut down the trees, but he, the neighbor, hoped that I would. I told him I would talk to the previous owner and see about it. I did that, and though it was 2 years ago, as I recall the owner told me he went out and moved the branch the moment he saw it. We talked a bit more, and I decided not to cut down the trees. Like I said, I like them. Anyways, that's all the backstory that I think matters. So I was away this past week/weekend visiting family for our annual reunion. I come back and honestly almost drove past my own house because I was so used to seeing the line of trees and they weren't there. He cut down all my trees. I immediately went and asked him, and he said he had them removed due to being a hazard and that it was legal because the city signed off on it. I was livid, but just left and told him to stay off my property. There aren't even stumps, guys. They are completely gone. I asked my other neighbors, one who lives down the road the opposite way and another across the way, what happened, and they said he had a company out there cutting them down all week. One of them asked him about it, and apparently he showed them some document from the city that gave him permission to remove the trees. Is that true? Can he just remove my trees? Should I call a lawyer about this? Should I call the city? I don't even know where to start. It's left that whole area of my property an ugly strip of dirt and loose earth. I know the trees are definitely on my property. The previous owner and real estate agent walked around with me, and I remember them showing me the extent of the property, and it's not like the trees are right up against the road. The trunks were like 15 to 20 feet in from the road, and were probably 15 feet apart. I'm not sure, but they stretched a pretty good amount along the road and some of the branches definitely hung over the road. What should I do? Edit. So I've been meticulously checking this for comments. Thank you so much to everyone who has offered advice. I also called the previous owner, who was rather surprised to hear from me, and told him what happened. He was also ticked. He told me those trees had been there since before he bought the house 20 something years ago, and he also told me what kind. He says they were white oaks, but I'm gonna go with what some people suggested and hire an arborist to come out. By the way, I should been more clear. Whoever removed the trees didn't take out all the stumps. I meant like the classic 2 feet stump wasn't there. They were trimmed down to like a few inches. Barely noticeable, and there is a lot of loose dirt, like they tried digging or something. I also saw the comment about a paint sketch and made one. Paint sketch, https://unga.com/z6ypw. Quick update. Hi everyone. This blew up overnight, and I'm so thankful for all the advice. This was a busy morning, but I think I'm on the right track. Some of your comments were shocking. Are trees really worth that much? I know my neighbor is a little wealthy since he's told me about a summer house he has in Sunriver. Is that okay that I mention the general area of his summer home, but IDK if he paid for this or what? I went to the police first thing and asked to report trespassing and possible vandalism. The officer took down my story and I even brought him some photos, which he asked to keep. He then told me, and this kind of ticked me off, that unless I had proof of my neighbor cutting these trees down, or giving authorization to cut them down, it may turn into my word against my neighbors. He suggested I just pursue this in court myself. Is he right? I don't want to question a police officer, but I want to be sure. While at the police station, I asked who I would talk to specifically with the city about permits and tree removals, and the officer told me to try the public works, which matched what a user commented. Thank you. I went home and called them. The lady asked for my street address so she could check it against their records, and I did, and she found nothing. Not a single thing. She said there was nothing regarding my address or property in the last 6 weeks. I noted that and thanked her. Then I called an arborist like many of you suggested and made an appointment for later this week. She, arborist, also asked that I have some photos of the trees when she comes, which is fine since I have more. Finally, I looked up companies that do landscaping or logging or tree removal, covering all my bases since I really don't know who would handle tree removal anywhere other than a forest. Anyways, after calling a few places, I got one who confirmed that they did the job and told me they were following a city order. That call was after I called the lady at the public works for the city, and she told me there was no record of my address. Did my neighbor lie to this company? They didn't ask me for more details, and when I asked who showed them the order, they said they couldn't tell me. WTF. Is that true? I'm going to look up some law offices in my general area and reach out about all this. Does this fall under a specific type of law office? Like, should I hire a specific lawyer? Sorry, I'm really out of my league here. I'll let you all know what happens though. Thank you again for the great advice and support. Edit a quick update. The company was a tree service, by the way. Didn't even know that was a business type. They aren't exactly local, but relatively close by. They didn't tell me what happened to the trees either. Then in a new thread, the original poster makes an update saying, I wanted to let everyone know where I'm at. This is beginning from the end of my last update on the original post, which detailed how I went to the police, found the company that did the job, and called the city to find there was no permit issued / document at the violation related to my address. Below is the official update. I have called a lawyer. After some in-depth searching and a few calls, I have connected with a relatively local lawyer. I'm a bit rural, and we talked for about an hour. He wanted all the details I had, especially when I mentioned the arborist. He asked for the number and told me was going to ask for additional information from the inspection that would be important for a lawsuit. He also gave me the number of a surveyor and told me I should call them ASAP. He then set me up with an appointment at his offices next week after the arborist's visit. As far as the criminal charges, he told me that was my call, but we could talk more about it next week. He did comment that making a police report was a smart move, so thank you Reddit for that advice. Lastly, he told me not to cannot be like the neighbor anymore, to get a written / signed testimony from the witness neighbor, and to report any documents in the mail from either my neighbor or the company that did the job, as well as refusing cannot be should the neighbor come to my door. I asked if I could continue updating you all, and he said that was fine, so long as I don't disclose personal information, which I won't obviously. So it looks like I'm taking my neighbor's butt to court. I hope somehow I can get my trees back, even just having new ones planted. That area of my property is so barren now. I'll be sure to update if more information comes to light that I can share, and of course, if it gets there, to what happens when it's all over. Thank you so much again for the advice. Finally, a year later, the original poster makes a final update. Hello legal advice community. I have not forgotten about you, who helped set me on the path to justice. I'll get right to it. I can't speak to all the details, and I'm sorry about not continuing to update. After everything got underway, I figured it would be best not to. To keep it short, my lawyer and I, spoke to the police, who then spoke to the neighbors down and across the street, the one who witnessed my trees getting cut down, who stated they saw the neighbor and the company cutting down the trees, and then finally they spoke to him. Neighbor, I don't know much beyond that with the criminal investigation. What happened with the whole city document or the company, and why that is, will be explained below. I hauled his butt into court. Well, first, the arborist came, as did the surveyor. The trees were on my property and they were white oaks. The arborist gave me an estimate on having 15 mature white oaks brought and replanted on my property, which was just shy of $650,000, though he did say some trees would die and that would drive the cost up. I also had my property appraised for the difference before and after losing my trees. It then became a question of whether I wanted to pursue my lost trees and see how much their lumber was worth, or sue for the replacement cost and loss of property value. Basically, do I want the trees back, or do I want the cost of the ones I lost? Apparently you can't have both. Well guys, I picked the trees. The actual court stuff started a lot sooner than I thought. We filed, a few weeks passed, and a few days before our day in court his lawyer reached out with a settlement offer. Apparently he was wealthier than I thought. We accepted, and, while I can't speak to the details of it, I'm getting the trees back. It's going to take a long time, apparently, several months, possibly all the way until September, since the process didn't start until just this week due to the holidays. But I will have all 12 trees back on my property at no cost to me. My neighbor has also put his house up for sale, and I haven't seen him for quite some time now. Oh well. There's a bit more to the settlement, but I don't feel comfortable speaking to that. Hopefully that's understandable. I remember some of the comments about whether the trees were a hazard to the road based on how far they were from the road. I ended up having to check with the county, not the city, and they sent someone out to measure and mark the boundaries. My trees were at least 5 feet beyond it, so outside the boundary. Not even close. Just thought I'd add that in. Anyways, there it is. I plan to take photos of the trees once they start getting put in, and of course once they are all in place and I have them back, I'll be sure to share them. I want to thank everyone for all their advice. It was a huge help. I didn't know you all were so into trees, but I'm glad you are. Have a good one everyone. I live in an older neighborhood in a small town an hour away from Nashville. The cost of living in Nashville has shot up, as well as property values, and some people have begun to move into our sleepy little town to get more out of their dollar. A newish neighbor is an aspiring country singer, lives in their own world, and seems to have a lot of money. This crudely drawn map shows the proximity of our two houses. The future Johnny Cash recently built a front porch that includes a fireplace, hanging lights, the whole shebang. Johnny's only source of hurt is that I had 2 old oak trees that cast his deck in shade during the prime hours. The map isn't aligned properly. He asked me to cut them down before even offering to pay, but I did not comply. When I returned from vacation last week, I came home to 2 tree stumps, mashed up grass, and a letter telling me to expect a Venmo payment for $2,000. I know that trees are well loved around here, but I don't think that this information is common knowledge to all lawyers. What should I bring up when I meet with a legal representative at the Beholletive to explore my punitive retribution? Then 2 weeks later the original poster updates. A lot has happened in the past 15 days. I wanted to provide a brief update, but it will be out of order. Thank you for all of the great advice. Sorry I was unable to comment in the original thread, but I'm grateful for everything. The first thing I did was delete Venmo, scan and back up the letters left in my mailbox, the ones offering to pay for the trees being cut down, and the one offering to pay, and called for someone from my local town to come and evaluate that the tree stumps were indeed on my land. But before the land evaluation, I wanted to write a quick gospel in praise of my lawyer. I drove down to the big city of Nashville and met with some real mean sob. I gave him a quick rundown of what happened, and he literally quoted the helpful comment made by you/Tudorus about harming landowners' trees. He told me that we should wait to file criminal charges until the stumps were without question on my land. So I had a town surveyor visit, and this is where the story gets good. While he was out making his observations, my neighbor came out and wanted to know when I would be taking the payments. I curtly said I wasn't yet ready to accept it, and he got mad, accusing me of being a crappy neighbor and not wanting to help his home. He then insisted that he had the right to cut down the trees, to which the surveyor confirmed my suspicions and told us no, the stumps were actually on my land. He could have trimmed branches if they were too long, but not cut the lumber down. He left in a huff. So now I'm waiting for Wednesday when the certified arborist will visit and tell me the tree Then sometime later the original poster makes a final update. Sorry for the delay, but that will be explained at the bottom. The arborist came out this past Wednesday. Prior to this meeting and this whole mess, I had taken trees for granted. I simply assumed that you would plant a seed, they would grow, you'd cut them down, make crap, and the process would repeat. But no, I was informed by this mystic man of nature, trees are far more complex. They takes years to root. Some trees need more dirt and ground to establish themselves. Some are more valuable in certain areas, with historical roots to the area. Some are incapable of growing in neighborhoods, if infrastructure has since been built. And some trees produce different veneer quality logs. White oak trees, or Quercus alba, is apparently one such tree that is highly sought after for veneer quality logs. They are used for furniture, for banjos here in the south, for all sorts of woodcraft. And, as the magical treeman told me, they are dang tough to grow in neighborhoods. Their roots don't let them grow in neighborhoods, and they shy from urban pollution. His point is that if you had 2 white oak trees of veneer quality cut down from your front yard, is that they'd be irreplaceable. New ones could never grow to that 100-year-old size ever again. Because of that, treeman, God of dollars, stated that $1,000 per year, per tree, is a base compensation. Sorry for the delay. My lawyer has been smelling blood in the water and wanted to ensure whatever I posted wouldn't put our $200,000 tree case in jeopardy and wanted to go over it first. TLDR, don't cut down white oaks in the birthplace of old hickory, or else. Thanks for listening. Check out our playlists for the newest daily videos. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like.